There is no waste but waste itself. Have you ever come across having these carrots that, oh shit, look, they're getting roots and they're maybe even a little bit moldy, not good for much, don't want to eat them at least? Well, fear not. If you're struggling with growing carrots or finding carrot seeds, you may not have a problem with that next year, because the way carrots work is that the first year, when you seed them, they will grow into this stuff we eat. But then for the next year, they will not produce more. You can stick a carrot down and it will produce a lot of greens. As you can see, some of the greens are coming out here. It's not coming out a lot because it's been in the fridge. But these roots that are coming out here, now that's the interesting part. I've taken whole carrots down here, but you can actually cut them down to at this point here, where you see these roots, and then you stick it down in the ground. What will happen then is that, as I mentioned, the second year they will produce seeds. So I went for an overkill here because I don't really have a lot of faith in the the potatoes that I had planted here. I'm not sure exactly what went wrong. The potatoes should be incredibly simple, and I've had success with that before. But any other plantings that I've looked at that I did before the cold snap has just turned out to be rotten. So what I did here was I just took a stick down and just probed a bit to see if there was a potato coming up. No potato coming up. Okay, then I put the carrot down. Okay. So that's the carrots. You can produce seeds. Maybe not a lot of food coming out of it, but seeds are useful for the next year, if anything. The same goes for leeks. You can put a leek down, and sure, you can harvest some of the greens, but it doesn't really grow too well when you stomp it back down again, the one you get from the store. But it is good for getting seeds. So there we go. Put right down there. And hopefully I will have plenty of seeds so I can plant leeks next year. As for this area, the same goes for onions. Now, usually when people try to make seeds, they will plant the whole bulb in, because then you don't need any nutrients or something like that. But I have another bed where I know it's nutrient deprived, so I'm going to do it there instead. So what I have done here is that I have planted onions in between here, and with the exception of this guy, this is a spring onion that was already starting to seed in the bag when I bought it, so that's a good start. Should be getting something from that one. But apart from that, I took the rest of the plenty of spring onions that I had. It's very simple. You just cut out the bottom part so the root bulby part is left, and then you put it down into the ground. You don't need to put them very deep either, because then they will have a tendency to acquire rot. Ooh, look at my radishes. Look how they ready and nice. And yeah, well, in any case, just place them around here. I had a couple over there. They should be doing fine. Here the onions are starting to get the garlic, is starting to get so tall. This is another thing you can just do. If you're seeing your garlic is starting to get that little green on it, or getting roots, or yeah, it's just like, I don't think I want to eat that anymore. Put it in the ground, and then you will actually get a new bulb. And this one you will be able to harvest on the very same year, because it will, well, unless you plant it very late, of course, but this one will not produce seeds. It's a root plant. It will produce the bulb that you tend to buy on the store. It will do so, it will do so as it climbs up. So I will need a trellis if I cannot use the weeds here to kind of keep it up. Let's see, there's one more thing. Yeah, and here, just to exemplify again, this is the spring onions that I'm hoping will turn into seeds. I think that leek there, as I mentioned, retarded. It won't. These onions, same thing as with the carrots. They will eventually start to yellow out, and then they will start making seed pods that you can utilize. When it comes to the spring onions, though, I should point out you can actually just put them back into the ground and keep cutting them. And as long as you keep cutting them, they won't go to seed. And that basically means you can just, whenever you want spring onion for your whatever meal you're making, you just come out and cut them. Simple as that. You can actually also do the same with radishes, and I think I might be testing that out a bit. When you see over there, it's a bit crowded, and places like that, I just thin it out by taking off the greens. Now, what do I have here? Here are seeds from cherry tomatoes that have already been fermented, and that's something you can also plant right now in June. Now, some people would say like, yeah, duh, of course, this is a good time to plant tomatoes because it's now starting to get warm, hot, and whatnot. But what most people kind of tend to omit in that fact is that they tend to plant them indoors and then transplant them. I find that to be cumbersome. I like to do it root and crude and just throw shit on it and just have it done, or at very most I just stomp it down. And the way you're doing it to convert the seeds in your tomato into something you can use fairly predictably is by putting it in such a cup like this. Have something to cover it, and yeah, I can actually give me a second here. So you just have some water in it. You dump your tomato stuff. Don't worry about the mold and all that stuff. It may look a little bit creepy, but you basically just scoop it up, and then after, because this occurs over a few days, and then eventually all the seeds will, when you pour the water out, the seeds will be down at the bottom. You then put them on some plastic or whatever, so that they can dry out and they crumble nice and fine. I'm going to close this again while I talk. I don't want any bugs in it, you see. And then you just let them dry on the plastic so that they will crumble separate from each other. And then you will have a nice little seed package like this. No need to buy it. It's kitchen scraps after all. Or you just take out that minuscule part of your thingy that you're making food from anyways. And there you go. You can start and this just takes a few days, like tops a week, and the drying part, that takes, depending on how you do it, it doesn't even have to take a day. And then you can start seeding out on your beds and so forth. So and I'm going to start doing, in this case, I'm going to do in the center here, because I have recently planted, I think that's what we're seeing here, no, that's something else. I have recently planted more sunflower seeds, because that's one of the more here we have sunflower seed coming up. And sunflowers are really good for making fats, plant fats, vegetable oils and stuff like that. And that's one of the things you may find yourself lacking, especially in the vegetable garden. And now, since my potatoes don't seem to be coming up as mentioned, I think I'm going to just take the risk of seeding these tomatoes. Those are regular tomatoes that are fermenting right now. These are cherry tomatoes. And I'm going to go for that right away, because in worst case scenario, let's say the potatoes do actually come up, they are supposedly good companion plants. Tomatoes and potatoes tend to do, tomatoes and potatoes, yeah, they tend to go very well along in any event. So they don't impede with the nutrients. If they shade out, you thin out like you would do with anything else. Yeah, but one thing to note though, if you're planting as I did over in that bed and partly in that bed, these are kind of like disease test areas. There's something called potato blight, and your tomatoes are likely to be susceptible to that as well. So yeah, don't plant mandelpotet. I only did it because to test out, but maybe that was a really bad idea and I have to just abandon this whole area as a potato place in the first place. That, you live and learn. And I think that's all there is to say about it, really. I mean, like I mentioned, mix in some of the weeds that I cut out, just to keep it moist. Keep it close to this little wild garden here, so that the worms have no problem finding it. And yeah, it's unfortunate I left this for the moose, but it doesn't come here and eat that anymore. I guess it just really liked the fresh stuff on the trees and whatever. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, what can I say? So much fun. It's really as fun as you make it. Bye bye bye.